the phone in my camera, the camera in my phone. If this is your first time here, my name is Joe and I'm the Kosher Ninja. I recently hiked through Israel on the Shvil Israel, or Israel National Trail, and we're talking about that, my experiences, what it was like, what I would do differently, and did it meet my expectations. So we're going to do a whole series of debriefs on my adventure, and if you haven't watched any of my videos from the Shvil, I have a bunch of videos, daily videos, kind of my journal from that adventure on my channel. So welcome to my channel, check out my videos, subscribe while you're here. But right now we're going to talk about some of my thoughts about my adventure, sort of after the fact. And we're going to get into some bigger detail about some of these issues in the next few weeks. But for now, I'm just going to try to answer some of the questions that I've been asked since I've been back. What were my biggest challenges? Definitely the weather. And I think I've already said the weather and juggling my competing priorities. So the other thing was the pack and sort of finding a level with my gear that I was comfortable with, and that my pack wasn't too heavy. So that was a big challenge. I was really sad about not being able to bring my camera along, but it was. I just didn't have time. Even as it was, I didn't have time. I could have taken pictures with my phone, and I just was not in that headspace. So it's actually a good thing that I left it behind. Next time I go, I may not leave it behind. My once in a lifetime opportunity has turned into next time I go. So I think next time I go, I will try to find a way. I will either make sure that the phone in my camera, the camera in my phone is good enough to take some really good pictures, or I will find a way to bring my camera along. There was one girl along the way who had exactly the same camera as I did, and but she was a lot younger than me, and she had recently finished her army service. I was quite jealous of her, actually, that she was able to bring it along, but she was able to carry it and take some, great pictures with her camera, and I'm still quite jealous of that. But next time, we'll try to get around that somehow. Someone asked me what was the most beautiful section, and they suggested maybe the last 3 or 4 days in the desert. A lot of people said those last 3 or 4 days, and they were amazing. Just sort of coming from the desert. I mean, you're still in the desert, but the whole vista opens up onto the Red Sea, and you see Eilat. Definitely beautiful. Very impressive, really, really amazing section. But for me personally, if you held a gun to my head and said I had to pick one section that was most beautiful, for me that's always going to be the Dead Sea. And I think you'll see some of the footage that I took where the sun is setting and glowing red on the mountains in Jordan, and it's against the turquoise water of the Dead Sea. That's always going to be my number one best view. What was the most exciting? I could say the fighter jets were really cool, but I think I'd have to say that was the coolest part, not the most exciting part. The most exciting part, I think would have to be, and it was actually a lot of mixed feelings, I gotta tell you, was leaving Arad and heading into the desert solo and just not knowing what to expect. I never planned to, I started the whole journey solo, and I was going to do it solo if that's what it came down to, but my plan was, like, by that point I was going to have met a lot of people along the Shvil, and I would have a hiking buddy by that time for the desert, and as it turned out I didn't. So just the decision to head into the desert solo was hard, but I finally had to make it. And I was always sort of aware that I could have to do that, but sort of in the abstract, it's a little bit different than once you're actually there and you're facing down the desert. But it was interesting. You just have to do it, right? Like, I didn't have a buddy, and I was determined to do that section and not to leave it out. So after waiting a few days, I just made that call and said I'm gonna do it, and I'm glad I did. And as always, I had my own personal trail angels along the way, which was that group of 8. And then after that, I started meeting people at the night camps. And that's really, if you're gonna do the Shvil for the desert section, even if you're going solo, and I was not the only person solo, there were a bunch of other people who were hiking solo. So you'd hike the day solo. You might run into somebody at a break spot, but you would get to the night camps, and at the night camps is where you would meet people. So you were never alone. There was always somebody hiking behind you or ahead of you. And really, once I got into the desert and I sort of started to understand that, then I felt a whole lot more comfortable. I did not feel wholly comfortable when I thought I was going to be alone at a night camp, but fortunately somebody always showed up. So in the desert, I did not camp alone. I did camp alone further up in the north. And yeah, so I think that would definitely count for the most exciting part, because it was kind of like, wow, I'm doing this and I don't know what's ahead of me, but I'm gonna go for it. It wasn't scary so much. I think that would be the thought. Was it scary? I mean, a little bit, like, not the fear of the unknown, but yeah, I think it was more exciting than scary. Someone asked what was the most dignified moment. And okay, I understand the word. I'm having trouble sort of conceptualizing that question within the context of the Shvil. But I guess I would have to say the moment with the horses on day 10. And I really, if I regret anything, I regret a lot of things, but I definitely regret that at that moment, at that point, I didn't take out my camera to film that. But I guess for me, that's always going to be a very personal moment for me. So I'm actually really glad on some level. I regret that I didn't film it, but I'm also really glad that I didn't film it, because it'll always be something personal to me. I will always remember that. And yeah, that, I mean, just, it was very, I felt, in spite of everything, I felt like such a failure, but at the same time, my guardian angels were standing guard over me, and yeah, it was just a weird mixture of feelings. And it'll always be a treasured memory that I will have, and nobody can ever take it away from me. And I kind of, as much as I'd like to share it with you, I'm also glad that I didn't film that. So it's just my moment. Do I regret anything? And if so, what? I have lots of regrets. Not being able to take my camera. I mean, I did bring it along for the first few days, and the first clue was when I dropped my filter in the rocks on Hermon. I was like, From that point, I sort of started thinking that, okay, maybe this wasn't the best idea. So that's definitely a regret. One of my big regrets is that I didn't get more pictures and video of my Shvil buddies. Even when I go back to do this over again, I'm never going to meet the same people on the Shvil. It'll always be new people, new experiences. Maybe some of the trail angels might still be around, but as far as the hikers are concerned, I do regret that I didn't get more of them in both my videos and in pictures. And not really sure why that happened so much as just kind of the headspace that I was in, and also trying to juggle the realities of the Shvil against the video, whatever, videography. So there's a lot of other regrets. The gaps that I left behind. Obviously, I wish I could have done it in the way I had planned, but realistically that just was never going to happen because I had a very ambitious plan, a very ambitious schedule for myself. So I do regret that, but I can't really regret that. Towards the end, I got really lazy as far as my umbrella and my trekking poles are concerned. And I wish I had, especially my trekking poles, especially my trekking poles. I wish I had used them more towards the end, but it got to be a little bit challenging because in the desert, wherever I wanted to put my trekking pole, there'd be a rock there, or there were some areas where they were actually useful, and then you'd go another couple kilometers along and it would be completely useless because the poles would get stuck in the rocks, and then I was afraid I was going to break a pole and stuff. So for a number of reasons, I just kind of got lazy going back and forth with the poles. The solar umbrella, I could have used more in the desert. But the floppy hat that I love to hate did a pretty good job, because for all those 2 months, really the 3 months that I was in Israel, but especially the 2 months that I was on Shvil, I never once sunburned myself, and I don't use sunblock or sunscreen or any of that. So everybody says use sunscreen, so if you believe everybody, use sunscreen. Don't listen to me. I don't like to use sunscreen or those kinds of any kind of treatments on my skin if I can help it. So the floppy hat and the umbrella really did the trick. I got a gorgeous tan. I did not sunburn anywhere, anytime. The only thing is, the last week my lips got really, really chapped, but that wasn't because of the sun. That was very much because the weather changed, and because it was crazy dry in the desert. But it wasn't even that dry in the other parts, in the earlier parts of the desert. It was just literally those last few days towards Eilat that suddenly it got cold at nights and really dry. So yes, my lips did chap, but they never sunburned, and yeah, so those are I guess, some of my biggest regrets. Laziness and not being able to do my my original plan, and not getting footage of my new buddies. I did say that we're going to do this weekly. Now, my problem is, again, Joe is the one who bites off more than she can chew. So I do have a day job, and so my whole sort of ambitious plan of getting out weekly videos is not going to work. So I'm really sorry. We're going to have to go back to the bi-weekly schedule that we had in the beginning. So every other Monday, we will put out a video and we'll talk about some more detail about my experiences. And if you have any other questions, please put them in the comments section down below. And I really can't wait to answer some of your questions and see what you guys think about my journey. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and subscribe. And if you've ever hiked the Shvil Israel or elsewhere in Israel, let me know about it in the comments down below. And I can't wait to see you again next time. So until then, thanks for watching, and shalom, eh?